5 silent stages avoidance go through before coming back. When an avoidant leaves, it often feels final. Their silence feels cold, their distance feels intentional, and their lack of communication convinces you that coming back isn't even a possibility. But here's the truth most people never see. Avoidants don't return suddenly. They don't wake up one morning missing you in a dramatic movie-style moment. Instead, there is a psychological pattern, a quiet internal journey they go through, almost like stepping stones back toward the person they left. And if you've ever dealt with a dismissive or fearful avoidant, you'll recognize the stages once you hear them. Today, we're breaking down the 5 stages an avoidant secretly goes through before they come back, even if they pretend they've moved on. The first stage is emotional decompression, the period right after separation when they convince themselves they finally have their freedom back. They aren't thinking about reconciliation, they're thinking about relief. Avoidants cope with emotional pressure by creating distance, so when the relationship ends, whether you ended it or they did, there's this initial sigh of relief they can't hide. It's not personal, even though it feels personal. Their nervous system is wired to avoid emotional demands, and the end of the relationship gives them a break from intensity. In this stage, they're not missing you. They're recovering from their own internal overload. They distract themselves, dive into work, hobbies, or surface-level interactions. But this stage never lasts as long as they hope, because once that emotional fog leaves, something else creeps in. Silence. And silence is exactly what triggers the next stage. Stage 2 is the curiosity phase, the moment when they quietly start wondering about you again. This is subtle. They won't reach out. They won't message you. Avoidance tests the emotional waters from a distance. They might check your social media, watch your stories, or ask mutual friends about you, but never directly. They want to know, are you upset? Are you moving on? Are you still interested? Ironically, avoidance feels safer missing you from afar than loving you up close. Distance makes emotions feel manageable, so instead of reaching out, they observe. And if they notice that you're not chasing, not begging, not demanding closure, something in them shifts. Because avoidance attach too, but only when they feel safe enough to do it. Your silence becomes the first sign of safety, and that safety triggers stage 3. Stage 3 is emotional reactivation, the stage where their suppressed feelings come back to life. Avoidants never process emotions in real time. They feel things later, sometimes weeks or months later. This is when memories start resurfacing, and their mind replays the relationship but without the pressure they used to feel. They think about your warmth, the moments you made them feel seen, the emotional connection they pretended didn't matter. This stage confuses them because their heart is waking up, but their defense system is still active. They might even get irritated with themselves for still thinking about you. Avoidants pride themselves on independence, so missing someone feels like they're losing control. But they can't fight the emotional pull forever. This is the point where they compare you to others, and nothing feels the same. No new connection feels as emotionally safe, and this contrast makes them realize what they walked away from. Once these feelings become impossible to ignore, they move to the next phase. Stage 4 is the testing stage, and this one is where most people misunderstand avoidance completely. Avoidants never return with full vulnerability at first. Instead, they test the environment to see if it's safe. This can look like random messages that seem meaningless. Hey, how have you been? I saw something that reminded me of you. Or even liking an old photo. They aren't reaching out just to chat. They're checking whether you will reject them, criticize them, or pressure them emotionally the moment they open the door. Remember, avoidants don't fear love. They fear losing themselves in love, so they test slowly, cautiously, and indirectly. If you respond with warmth, but not neediness, it signals to them that reconnecting won't put them back into emotional suffocation. But if you respond with anger, guilt trips, or too much emotional weight too fast, they'll retreat instantly. The testing stage is fragile. This is when they are the closest to coming back, but also the easiest to scare away. Once they feel safe enough, they finally enter the last stage. Stage 5 is the return, but not in the dramatic, emotional way anxious or secure partners might expect. Avoidants come back quietly, almost humbly, but in their own style. They might suggest meeting up. They might express that they've been thinking about you, or they might open up more than they ever did before, but it happens gradually, not suddenly. Their version of vulnerability is subtle but powerful. It might come through in small admissions, like, "I've been rethinking things," or "I didn't realize how much you meant to me," or simply showing up consistently for the first time. This stage is where avoidants surprise everyone. They're not cold anymore. They're thoughtful, attentive, and emotionally present in ways they weren't before. When an avoidant returns, it's because the emotional environment finally feels safe, not because they were convinced or pressured. They come back when the relationship no longer threatens their autonomy, and when distance has made them realize the connection mattered more than they allowed themselves to admit. But the journey doesn't end here, because avoidants don't just come back. They go through one final, critical stage that determines whether things actually work this time. Stage 6 is the stability calibration stage, the period where the avoidant tests themselves more than they test you. This is the stage people rarely talk about. After they return, avoidants quietly watch how they feel inside the renewed connection. They ask themselves, can I handle this closeness? Am I losing myself again? Is this relationship still safe? This internal calibration is not about doubting you, it's about managing their own emotional capacity. If they feel overwhelmed, they may pull back slightly, but not as dramatically as before. They create micro-distance to breathe, but they also come back quicker because there's genuine emotional investment now. In this stage, an avoidant slowly learns how to stay without running, how to be close without shutting down, and how to maintain connection without losing individuality. It's the stage where long-term success is built because they're rewriting the emotional patterns that used to push them away. And when they finally settle into emotional stability with you, that's when you'll see a version of them you've never seen, present, grounded, and genuinely capable of love. But here's the deeper truth most people miss. Avoidants don't come back because they suddenly change their attachment style. They come back because your energy changed. Avoidants return when the dynamic shifts from emotional pressure to emotional clarity. They return when you stop chasing and start living. They return when your absence creates a space where their true feelings can breathe without fear. The stages they go through aren't random. They're the natural unfolding of an attachment system that only feels emotions once the threat is gone. And if you're in a situation right now where an avoidant is distant, silent, or seems completely done with you, understand this. The story isn't always over when they walk away. Often the real emotional journey begins when you finally step back and allow them to face themselves. So if you're waiting for an avoidant to come back, don't focus on them. Focus on you. Their stages unfold naturally when the pressure disappears, when you stop trying to fix things, and when your absence speaks in a language avoidants understand. Space. You can't force an avoidant to return, but you can become the kind of person whose presence they feel deeply once they're gone. And when that happens, the stages begin quietly, almost invisibly, until one day they show up again. Not because they had to, but because they chose to. And when an avoidant chooses you, it's because every stage led them right back to the truth they couldn't deny. Losing you was the one thing they weren't actually prepared for.